Hello, so quite a while ago I made a video talking about working in care, and it was quite a long rambling video. This one's going to be a lot shorter and more concise because it's going to be focused on just working with people with learning disabilities, because that's what I do, that's what I enjoy. If you're new to working with learning disabilities, then there's several things you're going to come across. One, there's going to be a crossover. So if you're working with someone with learning disabilities, there will be a slight crossover with people with autism, but not necessarily. There may be a crossover with people with challenging behaviour, again not necessarily, and people with physical disabilities, but again not necessarily. So you often will find, if you work in this sort of sector, there is it's like a overlap of different conditions, but again, there doesn't have to be. You could be working with someone with learning disabilities, they're not autistic, they have no physical disability, and they're not challenging. But these sort of things can come into it. Thing is, with people with learning disabilities, some people will say, oh, they look a bit different, and it's like, okay, do they? No, they don't. Okay, someone with Down syndrome might look a bit different, but again, that's another overlap into another thing. They look exactly the same as anybody else. You can't tell just by looking at somebody if they have a learning disability. It's impossible. You can't do it. They may have some other condition which you can identify by sight, but learning disability on its own, you cannot tell just by looking at them. It's impossible. And again, it's on a spectrum. You've got some people with very, very mild learning disabilities. They can be pretty independent. They may even have their own jobs, or they may volunteer. They may be completely self-sufficient. They just need a little bit of help here and there, a little bit of guidance just to make sure everything's cool, a little bit of reassurance, and that's it. And it can go all the way to the other extreme where you have to do literally everything for them, right down to washing, toileting, personal care, and all that, and everything in between. So it's a huge range. Just to say that you work with someone with learning disabilities, the job at this end can be very, very different to this end. And if you tell anyone and say, oh, I'm a support worker, they'll be like, what's that? Most people don't know what a support worker is. So if you say, oh, I work in care, because they know what that is, most people will then instantly assume you work with old people and you wipe bums all day. And it's like, no, that is not what I do at all. I work with people and I help them just live their life, basically. That's what it is. To be honest, it's a bit of a laugh, really. They want to go out and do things. Basically, I get paid to have fun. They want to go to this place, so it's like, okay, let's go there for a day out. Take people to the beach, for example. I took a bunch of people down to Brighton back in the summer. Actually, it's probably more autumn by that time. But I took someone to London. It was a laugh. This is what happens. A long time ago, I took someone down to Arundel Castle. Normally, it isn't like that. Normally, you don't go on these fun day trips. Like last year, I went to Birdworld 3 times in 2 weeks. Started out fun, but the third time was like, yeah, this isn't so fun now. But you've still got to pretend to enjoy it. But even so, most of the time, it's just boring, mundane stuff. It's like, have you done your laundry? Have you had a wash or a shower? Do you need to do the washing up? Do we need to buy food shopping? It's just boring everyday stuff. It can get quite monotonous, and people are like, oh, but working in that kind of line of work can be really rewarding. And yes, it can be really rewarding. It is possible, but on the whole, it is a bit monotonous. It is a bit the same thing every day. Come on, let's get you washed, let's get you dressed, let's get your breakfast, what shall we do today? Okay, now it's time for lunch, let's get your lunch, let's wash up. It can be a bit dull, but the idea is to make it interesting. I mean, I've just done a bit of agency work, and there's not a lot you can do with people with agency work. Although there was a place I've been working at where obviously I did I could contribute quite a bit. But if you're actually working somewhere full time, then you can actually say, well, let's do this, let's do that, let's go somewhere, let's be interesting, let's have some fun. If you're a new support worker learning people with learning disabilities, it is good to see how things are done. Just watch and observe. I don't just mean like on your shadowing shifts. I mean just generally, even when you're working there normally, just see how things are done, and you will see that a lot of staff will do things differently to other staff. That's perfectly normal. You'll see that people will do things because that's the way it's always been done, without actually really knowing why they're doing it. It's just like, well, I'm doing it like this because that's the way I've been shown. And it's like, well, why are you doing it like that? And they won't be able to tell you. That's perfectly normal. Normally at this point, I will then start thinking of different ideas, and then I will present them to the manager. And the manager will either like these ideas or not like these ideas. But you've got to constantly think of things, and I don't like it when people just do things just because that's the way it's done. And it's very, very easy to get into a routine, and not just people with learning disabilities, of all across the care sector, because the carer wants an easy life, and they will just do the easy thing over and over and over and over again, just for an easy life, never changing the routine. And if someone's got autism, they probably love that. They don't like a change of routine all the time. But someone that's just got a simple learning disability, they will get bored. They don't like to just do the same thing over and over again, and they may start acting out because they're bored, and then they'll be like, oh, that person's got challenging behaviour. It's like, no, that person hasn't got challenging behaviour. They're just fed out with the same mundane thing over and over and over again. They want a bit of variety in their life. People like variety in their life. So yeah, but one thing you need to be careful of if you are new to the job, people with learning disability are very clever at manipulating the staff. For two reasons. One, because they're just clever at manipulating staff. They want to get their way, and they will try it on with somebody new. Or two, they honestly believe what they're saying. They can be completely wrong about something, it doesn't matter what it is, but they believe it so much that you believe them, and then you end up making a mistake and you end up cocking up, and then another member of staff's like, why have you done this? And they're like, because that person said that. And it's like, you've got to be careful of that. Always double check with someone that has been there a while, that knows them, that knows their routine, that knows what they're like, and knows how manipulative they can be, because it's very common. They may have a learning disability, but they can be masters at manipulation. You will have the same conversation multiple times. That's just the way it goes. You may have the same conversation several times a day, or you may just have the same conversation several times a week, or even several times a month. But that will happen, and you've just got to keep approaching it as if it's fresh, it's new, you're engaged, you're interested to talk to that person because they're opening up, they're talking to you. And if you're having the same conversation that you've had many, many, many times, that's just the way it goes. Don't worry about it. You're there for that person. If that person wants to have the same conversation again, then let them have it again. Don't be like, oh, we've had this conversation, because chances are they may not remember it, or they may have anxieties, or they're unsure about certain things, and they just need to repeat it just to make sure. So that's cool, just go along with that. It makes them happy. So just, you're paid to help them, so that's what you need to do. If you're having the same conversation multiple times, then have the same conversation multiple times. It's perfectly cool, and there's nothing wrong with that. Going back to the manipulation thing, you're there to support them to be independent. This is quite important, because a lot of people will try and get the staff to do things for them. It's like, oh, can you do this for me? Can you do that for me? And at first, if you don't know the person, you might be willing to do it, but you've got to learn what that person can and cannot do for themselves, because the moment you start taking over and doing everything for them, they will learn, even though they have a learning disability, they'll learn that this particular member of staff, they will do everything for me and I can be lazy. And it's like, no, that's not what you're there for. You're there to get them to do things. You're there to get them to do their laundry, their washing up, make their bed, if they can. Some people generally can't, and that's fine. You do have to do it for them. Others, they can do it perfectly well. Maybe you have to prompt them, maybe you have to guide them, maybe you need to help them, but it's that person that should be doing it. And again, you'll see some staff, either they're inexperienced and they just do everything for them, or they're lazy and they do all the work. Now this sounds a bit like a contradiction, saying that they're lazy so they do the work. It's actually a lot easier for the staff to fold all the clothes away and put them in the drawers or hang them in the wardrobe than getting someone else to do it, because that person doesn't necessarily want to do it, and that's actually more effort. So it's like, oh, move out the way, I'll do it. That's not the point. You're there to get them to do what they can to promote their independence. I mean, a lot of these places say ultimately to get, they want these people to live on their own and be independent, although quite frankly, a lot of the time they're just reading out of a book. It's like, oh yeah, we're teaching them to be independent so they can live on their own one day, and it's like, it's never going to happen. That's just talking nonsense here. Some people, yes, but a lot of times you do hear a lot of, it's like parrots repeating things without really knowing what they're saying. And that's what I was going back to earlier, people doing things without really knowing why. It's because it's just the way it's always been done, and I'm not in for that kind of thing. Obviously, when you use somewhere, you don't want to rock the boat and be like, I'm going to do everything differently, because that's the fastest way to make enemies of your colleagues, and you don't want to do that. You want to be friendly with your colleagues, not necessarily friends, but friendly, get on with them, have a good working relationship, and try and see what changes can be made without rocking the boat. And you may go into somewhere that's perfectly brilliant. Those places are out there. Some places are out there which are really good. The residents or clients or people that you support, whatever the terminology that particular company uses, may have a really good thing going on, where the people go out to day centres, the staff take them out to different places, they have independent lives, they go out on their own, the staff take them to different places, and it's all really wonderful, and isn't this just brilliant? And there are places like that. There are some genuinely good places out there, but then there are other places where it's like, oh, what should we do? Let's go out for a drive. Let's just drive around here and then go back home. And it's like, well, what the hell was the point of that? Okay, we went out in the car literally to kill time. Literally, I've worked in a place literally between breakfast and lunch to kill time. They literally just go out in the car, drive around, and then come back so they can say that they've done something. It's like, well, they haven't done anything. They've sat in a car doing nothing. So when I'm working in a place, my interest, my goal, my purpose for being there is so that the people I'm looking after are the priority. It's like, what do they like? Maybe they like just going out in the car and driving around for a while. That's fair enough. But maybe they want to do something. Maybe they want to go somewhere, experience something new. Not everyone. Some of them, their learning disabilities are so advanced that literally anything beyond the borders of their own mind doesn't exist to them. They're literally in their own head, in their own body, and that's it. That is their limit. Okay, so fair enough. Maybe just driving around in the car might be enough for them. But the majority of them will want something more. Depends on the level of their learning disability. Some of them want new experiences. Like when I took a guy to London, he'd never seen a skyscraper before. He was like, wow, and he was going up to everyone that we met saying, I've never been to London before. This is my first time in London. It was quite funny to watch. But other people just want something really simple, like I'll walk down to the local duck pond and sit on the bench. That's enough stimulation for them. Always read the support plans, but you should know, okay, I have never worked in a single place. I've worked in a lot of places, either full-time or through agency. I have not worked in a single place where the support plans were completely up to date with all the relevant information. It's just never happened. And the staff were always like, oh yeah, we need to do it, we've always got other things to do, we'll get to it eventually. But I've never worked in a single place, apart from when I was working in a company and I made sure that support plan was bang up to date, and I updated it all the time. Like every couple of weeks I was making amendments to it to make sure it was up to date. I went back there 5 years later while I was agency worker. I said I'm a little unsure about going back there because it'd be a bit weird going back, because I used to be a full-timer there and now I'm agency. I went back there. The support plan said that I was still the key worker. I hadn't been in that building and looked after the guys there in 5 years, and it said I was still the key worker for that person. So it's just gonna happen, okay? So that's something you need to understand, that support plans will be out of date. Some places only the senior staff can be key workers or link workers. It's the same thing. A key worker and a link worker is exactly the same thing, it's just different terminology. Some places only the senior staff can do that, other places the other staff can. The first thing they do when you get to a place, once you've done all the induction and everything, they give you the support plans and you say read this, and you'll spend all day reading the plans thinking, isn't this thoroughly boring? And then you actually get to work for the people, and then you realise, well, that's wrong, and this is wrong, and this is out of date. The plans will not be up to date, I guarantee it. But those plans are like your guide. You don't know how to look after these people until you've read that plan, because the plan is supposed to tell you how to look after these people, and it won't be up to date. I can tell you that now, it won't be, it just won't. I don't care what company you work for, and even if it is, the dates on it do appear to be up to date, there will be things in there missing, I just guarantee it. So yeah, this is just a quick guide. Hopefully it will be helpful for people going into this line of work. And so I do really enjoy this line of work. I feel comfortable when I'm around these kind of people. I don't know why I feel more comfortable when I'm around these sort of people. There's a friend of mine, he runs a nightclub for people with disabilities, and I like going there. I haven't been for a long time because, well, I live like over 100 miles away now, so it's not particularly easy for me to get there. But I am just comfortable around these guys. I just am. So that is why I do this work. I've done work with so-called normal people. And I've done customer service, like a retail bar work. I've spoken about that in our previous videos. And I don't like hanging around those kind of people, like regular people. They annoy me, they bug me, they irritate me. But when I'm around people with learning disabilities or other disabilities, I'm comfortable. I'm in my element there. They're generally so much happier and more friendly as a general rule than regular people. Regular people are just moody bastards. But I find people that I look after are just so much more friendly, and they've got so much less stress, and you just round them and it's just a fun time. You've got to enjoy it. You can have a laugh with them, you can be silly, you can be daft, and they love it. Mostly the one or two people, but on the whole, I can just be a complete nutcase. But of course you've got to be able to switch between being a nutcase and a mature, sensible adult, who's responsible for these people's lives while I'm taking them out places. But then also switch back to just being a complete nutter, because they do enjoy it. on the whole. This video's gone far too long. It was supposed to be like a 5-minute video, and I think I've spoken for way longer than that, so I'm going to stop now. I probably won't do another video talking about working in care or people with learning disabilities again. So if you did like this, check out my older video about working in care. You don't need to subscribe because I probably won't do another one like this again, but I do lots of other things, so check out them. If you like those videos, then please subscribe, and I'll see you later. Bye.